If I look a bit awkward today, it's because you should try having over 1 million mums with their arms up your back, operating you. I remember calling myself a puppet, but it's probably quite an accurate description. It's a challenging audience for me, a bunch of tip-top marketeers, not least because every time I ever see a list of the worst internet marketing campaigns ever, Mumsnet seems to have been involved in at least half of them. So if there is anyone here from Coke, Primark, Merck, Kerry Foods, Asda, Tesco, the Outdoor Advertising Association, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democratic Party, and the Tory Party, I'd like to say right now, I'm very, very sorry. But I wish you'd come and seen us first, I think is my message. So, Mumsnet, a little bit, first of all, just about us. A few stats. We're very big. Our users most of our users come at least every day. 50% come and visit us once a day. And they spend quite a long time. 12 minutes may not look very long, but that's about double the size of our nearest competitor. And there are lots of these mums. We have about 1.2 million unique visitors a month, and I'm pleased to say it's on the rise. And who are these women? Who are the scourge of brands everywhere? Well, they tend to be higher than average income. They are well educated. 75% have a degree or beyond. 2/3 are in employment, full or part-time. They are obviously parents. They're online shoppers. They are early adopters, I think is what you lot call them. These are the mums who are at the school gates and the other mums are following them. And they swear a lot. So in short, I think it's fair to say they're quite scary. In terms of our competition, we are the busiest site out there. We don't really call ourselves a parenting site. We're an online network of parents. On Mumsnet, the busiest forum by a long, long way is not pregnancy or parenting or education. It's a forum called Am I Being Unreasonable? And quite frankly, yes, most of them are, most of the time. So why has Mumsnet grown? We're 10 years old now. In internet years, we're positively geriatric. We're sort of well on the way to becoming Grandsnet, I think. The main reason why Mumsnet is used when we ask our users is because it is useful. It offers 24-hour information, advice from like-minded people who have been there, done that. We all talk about the intelligence and wisdom of crowds. Well, I think Mumsnet is a particularly wise crowd because of the intelligence of its users. And you can get very good advice on anything and everything 24 hours a day. It's trusted. I think that is because it is peer-to-peer advice. When we talk to our users about how they view Mumsnet, they tell us things like, 8 out of 10 have bought a product they'd never come across before because they came across it on Mumsnet. And a similar number will seek advice routinely from the Mumsnet community before buying a product. And the reason it's trusted is because it's authentic and it's people who are like the mums telling the mums what to do and what not to do. It's not necessarily brands. So, how do you reach this audience of sassy, opinionated, stroppy women? I'm going to start with some do's because I want to be positive. So I'm going to start with a campaign we did for Bernard Matthews. Now, you might think, and we did think, let me tell you, that Bernard Matthews' Mumsnet is not a match made in heaven. There was a certain amount of scepticism on Mumsnet about Bernard Matthews, and we were slightly concerned about, how it was all going to go down and how it was going to pan out. But Bernard Matthews said to us, look, we really do want to engage properly. And what they did was they took the questions, the criticism, the scepticism head on. They filmed it. So they had a bunch of Mumsnetters asking about how they keep their turkeys and, what their process is and do they get them all from Europe and are they well looked after. And they didn't convince everyone, but they convinced a number that they weren't as bad as they they portrayed them, they had been portrayed. It was a very successful campaign, not least because then they threw in Marco P.O. White to cook the perfect turkey escalope and teach the mums and to flirt a bit as well. So the point is, even fairly, dare I say, toxic brands can improve their status if they engage and they do it in an authentic way and they answer the criticism. The next thing to do is to listen. Mumsnet is, I mean, I'm here at the age of dialogue, and it is a conversation. And I think, you know, it's very important not just to tell, but to ask as well, and to listen and respond. Last Sunday, I was sitting, you know, reading the message boards, as you do, and I got a call from the CEO of BT, who is a man I've never met before, never spoken to before. And he said to me, "Oh, Justine, I've just been reading on your site that someone's got a problem with one of our engineers. And I'd very much like to post a statement and contact that lady and sort it out." And he did. And within half an hour, that conversation had the CEO of BT on it, explaining that he was, you know, sorry that it had gone wrong and he was looking into it. And the Mumsnetters were impressed. Now, I can see people paling, thinking, I've got to be on Mumsnet on Sunday morning. But the point is that I think when he noticed something, and it may take a while to notice something, you know, respond quickly and don't hang around consulting 17 different departments to come out with a very bland statement. That doesn't work quite so well. Another thing that doesn't work well is you know, and a classic example of someone not listening was Biscuitgate. Now, Biscuitgate was not a case of Mumsnetters being desperate to know whether Gordon Brown preferred hobnobs to jammy Dodgers. But they did ask the question, what is your favourite biscuit? 13 times in a Paxman-esque way. And the reason they kept asking this question, because they had a little inkling that Gordon Brown wasn't actually, during his web chat with them, looking at any of their answers or looking at any of their questions. He was just regurgitating a whole load of pre-prepared policy stuff. And they recognised that this is not really a conversation. This was someone coming on to tell them stuff. And we all know what happened after that episode, and we all know what happened to Gordon Brown. So my message is, do listen. This is possibly the hardest thing for brands to do and for agencies who look after brands. It is to relinquish control, to let yourself go. It is very hard, when I do understand this, when you spend a lot of time and effort working on a brand, to let the chains off and let people talk about it in a way that you're not controlling. But I just want to give you an example of how powerful it can be if it works. So the case study here is Ford. Ford gave a group of Mumsnetters their new Galaxy to test, and they gave them a handy cam, and they said, let yourself go. We will show these videos, and we were part of the editing process, and we know they edited the videos in a true and fair spirit. And the mum said, we know it was authentic, because the Mumsnetters would go to IKEA with their kids in the back. They'd rave about the folding seat system, and more importantly, they would all come back with a set of IKEA tea lights. Now, you know, if you've been to IKEA, you never leave IKEA without those tea lights, so it was real, and it worked really well. And they got a set of videos that were authentic. It was Mumsnetters talking to Mumsnetters, doing the selling to Mumsnetters, and they use those videos all over their site, not just on Mumsnet. So let yourself go. But obviously you've got to be fairly confident that your brand is going to be liked and your product is going to be popular. But if you are, then this is a great way of doing it. Okay, so now we come on to the how not to do it. The first thing I have to say is back to this authenticity thing. Do not fake it. Now, we had a situation where an agency thought it would be a good idea to let a load of brand ambassadors out, and those brand ambassadors would masquerade as Mumsnetters and come and tell Mumsnetters that a particular product was just the best thing since sliced bread. And it took, I would say, about 25 minutes for Mumsnetters to spot these imposters that appeared all over the message boards, interrupted their conversations with, you know, messages about this particular product. Now, I apologise, this poor agency, it's such a good example, this, I use it a lot, and every time they ring me up and say, oh God, it was a mistake, we didn't mean it, we didn't, you know, will you shut up? So this is almost the last time I'll ever use this example. But what happened was the Mumsnetters thought, right, okay, we're fed up with being invaded, so we're going to start a thread. And the gist of the thread is this product, Halib Orange Multivitamins, kills otters. And the first time that the brand knew that all this was happening was when they looked at they just Googled themselves, as we all do, and the top search result was saying that their brand kills otters. You'd have to not pretend you're something that you're not, or it will end in disaster. The second thing, which sort of goes without saying, I think most of what I've said to you applies to all social networks. This particular don't applies especially to Mumsnet. Do not patronise us. We are, you know, forever characterised as rather insular, slightly dim women, because that's how mothers are characterised. I remember we sent someone to the G20 to report on what was going there, and every media person, she told me afterwards, every single media person who came up to her to talk to her started speaking very slowly. So we don't want to be patronised. Mumsnetters are smart and savvy, and quite frankly, then Kerry Katona is not a role model to them. I'm sorry, Iceland. And just because Kerry says she shops in Iceland, we won't. So, you know, silly celebs, that's not such a good idea. And I think the other thing that can be a danger with social networking is this idea that going viral is everything. You know, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you go viral. And I can tell you that's not really the be-all and end-all, I would say, when it comes to brands. There was an example of, recently, Dr. Pepper persuaded teenagers to surrender their Facebook status, and they would put embarrassing things up, and it was, Dr. Pepper, what's the worst that can happen? Well, I can tell you the worst did happen, because one of the teenagers who surrendered their Facebook status happened to have a mother who was on Mumsnet. And Dr. Pepper put, I'm not really going to go into it, I certainly had never heard of it before I came across it in this instance, but they put a hardcore scat porn reference up on this 14-year-old's Facebook page. She Googled it. Luckily, her mother had good internet protection on. But basically, they caused a lot of fuss. They caused a lot of viral conversation. And Coke sacked the agency, and I think Coke felt quite strongly we don't really want our brand connected with promoting porn to teenagers, actually, however viral it goes. So don't do daft things just because someone tells you it's going to cause a buzz. And I think this is, if there's one message I have for you out there, if it all goes horribly wrong, just resist the temptation to sue, please. I don't think it ever works to go legal, not in the long run. You can't start a conversation and then try and just shut the conversation down. If it's going wrong, you need to actually get involved and spend a bit of time and try and sort of claw your way back. There was a campaign recently done. Again, it was one of these ones, let's cause a stir. We'll put up ads which say career women make bad mothers. Have you ever heard the phrase career men? Just as an aside. Mumsnetters took against it. They started writing to the agency's clients saying, well, do you really want to be connected with this agency that makes such sexist statements? And the agency went legal. They started trying to shut the conversation down. And ultimately, that didn't work out too well either for them. You may have heard of another case with a famous parenting guru who got offended when Mumsnetters said she strapped babies to rockets and launched them into southern Lebanon. She tried to shut the conversation down too, and after a long, protracted battle in the press, I think possibly, dare I say, at the risk of being sued, she probably wished she hadn't tried to shut that conversation down. So that's really all I've got to say, a lot of do's and don'ts. I hope I haven't put you off ever coming near our website to do anything. It's not that terrifying, honestly, we do great things all the time with brands, and I'd be very happy to take any questions from anyone who's got any.